don't think I ever told this story to anybody, at least in its entirety. And I think a lot of parts of it have just sat in the back of my head. And I think at the time, it didn't feel as big as I think it really was. Maybe because in my head, I tried minimizing what happened so I wasn't as affected. But I think I realize now how big it was to my life. So, as the title says, I had a friend that ended her life when she was 12. I met this girl. We're going to call her Kira. I met her in my 7th grade science class. I don't remember if we became friends instantly. I don't remember anything, if I'm being honest with you. I just remember being friends with her and talking every day in class. And I loved her. She was so... This sounds so basic, but she was so kind. And she was so sweet. And she had short hair, and she was blonde, so she would color it a lot. And she always had, like, the coolest hair. Because it was never... She always did it by herself. It was never very bright. It was always... It was like these pastels, like, blues and purples. And I just thought it was, the prettiest combination of colors, honestly. And in middle school, I had I would say like a big, not big friend group, but a big circle of people that knew each other. And she was a part of that. So I had friends that knew her, and then we were all able to be friends together. Now, obviously, it was middle school, and things were weird. So people would fall in and out of friend groups all the time. And she ended up, like, later along down the line, she ended up not getting kicked out, but, like, a lot of people started talking to her less, and I never understood why. They never gave a true reason. I just knew that they were arguing, like, on and off all the time. But I was always her friend. And I refused to take sides. Because I honestly hated it. I didn't like the constant rivalries. Not to, act like I'm the angel, but I just didn't like people talking behind each other's backs and whatever. I tried not to do it as much as I could. But when she was, like, a part, like, of our friend group, and she was, like, in our group chats, she would sit with us at lunch. And I remember her brother came. And this is where things got a little weird. Because I had heard of her brother before. I'd never met him, never spoken to him, but I just heard things, and I heard about how conservative he was. Or I wouldn't even say conservative. I would just say, whatever. You'll get the gist in a second. But anyway, we had quite a diverse friend group. Quite a diverse and accepting friend group. So, we had a piece of paper, and people went around in a circle writing the slurs that they were able to say. And they gave this paper to Kira's brother. And he read them all out to us. Like, with a straight face. And I don't remember much from the situation. I just remember that it happened. And I remember I didn't pay much attention to Kira, right? But there was this time a few weeks later where she texted our group chat about her brother and told us that her brother threw a hammer at her head and she was in pain. And I was like, oh my God, like that's insane. Like, are you okay? Like, all that stuff. And I never knew this, and a lot of us didn't, but her brother would, like, physically hurt her. And she reflected, like, on the time that he came over to us during lunch, and also other times, because people that were friends with Kira that knew her brother, whenever we would pass by him in the halls, they would like just say mean things because they thought he was a bad person, and he did do some bad stuff, but they just kept not tormenting him, but they would just like poke fun at him when he would walk by. And she asked us to stop because she thought that doing those things was causing him to hurt her more. Like them being rude to him would fuel his, I don't know, his anger issues maybe. I don't know. But we stopped. And in middle school, I feel like in our friend group, I didn't think of us as emo, but now that I look back, it definitely seems that way. I remember we were all sitting at lunch one time, and some guys had took our, like, where we usually sit. Not took, but, you know, they sat where we usually sit. And they were making fun of us, like, calling us the... I don't know if I can say this on YouTube, but they call us, like, the Suicide Squad. And, like, I don't know, sometimes people would just say stuff like that. Not very much, really. But just that one time, I do remember that sticking out to me. So, all that to say, like, mental health problems, like being, like, mentally sick was just so normal in my friend group. And, like, people would just, like, attempt, or, like, at least say they would attempt to, like, end themselves, like, and then not one would care, but no one would do anything. And maybe it's just because nobody knew what to do. But, like, you know, people were like, oh, please don't tell the counselor, please don't tell anyone, blah, blah, blah. And it was just so normal to be just so, like, I don't know, mentally ill. So when Kira was also, you know, mentally ill, it was just like, you know, okay, like we quote unquote, we accept you. No one ever reached out to anybody to help her. But first thing I knew was she was, like, depressed. And I knew she had medication. And I don't know what went through my head in middle school. But there was a point where one of our friends, let's call her Rain, okay? Kira gave Rain her meds. Because I was closer friends with Rain than I was with Kira. And I saw, like, a bunch of pills in her backpack. And I was like, I don't think I said anything, but Rain told me that there were Kira's and she asked her to take them. And it was like this for, like a little bit. I don't know if it was days or weeks, but, like, more than one day. I didn't know what to think of that, but now looking back, there's probably a reason why she gave them all to Rain. Probably because she, I don't know, was at risk of using them for something other than making her depression feel better. But yeah. And then the next semester, second semester, I believe, of 7th grade, I ended up having her in my PE class. And so we talked even more, and things started getting concerning. And she told me that she was schizophrenic. I don't know if she was diagnosed, but that's what she told me. And she started talking about, like, weird stuff, you know, like, and I think this was like not a trend, but like a thing going around, like, on TikTok or whatever, where it was like being an IRL, which is like you believe you're a video game character or some sort of character from fictional universe, and you believe you are them in real life. So she told me that she was one of those, and she told me that she was, I believe, Basil from Amori. And she started talking about her friends, but they were people from Omori. And she bought this camera. She brought it to school one day. And she was like, yeah, I bought this camera to be more like one of the characters, like, I don't know exactly what she said, but it was to be like one of the characters from Omori. And she said she had a photo album she was going to fill with like photos of her friends, but they weren't people in real life. They were, you know, the people from the game. We also had like, she had like I forget it was hers or someone else's, but there was like a Discord server. And we had like a venting channel or something, and or maybe it was just some regular channel, I don't know, but she was talking, and she was saying how she wanted to like end her life because it might have a chance of her going back to where like her quote-unquote home is, but she was too scared to because, you know, that would mean if it didn't work, she would, you know, die. You know, and maybe I should have like taken that as, you know, a big sign, like a warning. But I didn't. And no one else did anything either because it was just so normal to talk about that stuff. And this one time, I remember I got so sad and confused because I didn't understand all this at the time. But she told me about how she plays piano. And then I asked her, I was like, oh, because I play piano too. I was like, oh, how long have you been playing? And she looks at me and she's like, honestly, I don't remember anything anymore. Like, all of my memories have been replaced by, you know, these fake, she didn't say these fake memories, but that's, you know, they got replaced by those like fake made up memories. I was like, I don't remember what I said, but anyway, the school year ended and, you know, we did like yearbook signings and all that. And I remember she wrote in my yearbook, because I did orchestra and she was going to join the next year. And she wrote in my yearbook, she was like, oh, I can't wait to see you in orchestra next year. And then school went out and I didn't see her. So, for some context, by the time the year had ended, Kira and Rain were no longer friends. Like, I don't know if it was one-sided or not, but I know Rain did not like Kira. So July rolls around, and I hadn't talked to Kira really at all, I don't think. But Rain messages me, and she goes, hey, have you heard anything from Kira? And I was like, no. And she goes, she's been missing since like early morning or something like that. And I was like, yeah, no, I haven't heard anything. And I feel like at that point I had a feeling. It was almost like unbelievable, unreal. Like, I was like, not that I never thought, oh, no way this could happen, but I don't know, I just had a feeling. And so a day goes by and Rain messages me again. And she's like, you know, I have to tell you something. And she tells me that Kiro, you know, had passed away. And it was because she, you know, committed suicide. I don't remember. I didn't have a reaction. I was on a road trip with my mom, my brother, her boyfriend. Just, I had a pillow. I was just looking at my phone. And it sounds messed up, but I think I smiled a little bit because I don't know why. Maybe it's the shock I didn't find it funny or good in any way, but I couldn't cry. I didn't feel anything. So I told him, I spoke in the car after a while. I was like, my friend died, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, wow. My mom was like, wow, that's sad. And we continued the road trip as if nothing had happened. And, maybe it's partly because I I didn't say anything in any particular way. I just said it as it was. And it didn't hit me at all, I think, for the next few days. But Rain ended up telling me, a couple of the details. And, apparently she, at her mother's house, her mother's, she lived, it's like a studio apartment, very high up. And apparently she, jumped off. Oh, God. I don't remember when Rain told me this, but she ended up telling me that the night before Kira, ended her life, they had an argument. And it was something like, because Rain did not like Kira. So Kira texted Rain and was like, something like, because you think I'm weird, like how can I be better or less weird or something like that. And they ended up arguing. And I think, if I remember correctly, and there was another person that joined the argument or something. This was over text. And then that's when she went missing soon after. And saying all this aloud, I'm sure anyone listening would want to blame, the person she was arguing with, but I can't, as someone who knew both of them. And obviously, I know Rain, didn't tell her to end her life. And no one really knows even if that was why. It could have just been the last straw. I don't know. But a little bit after all that stuff, it started to hit me. And people were posting about her, posting on Instagram, like, rest in peace, posts like that. And I posted one too. And I used to go to church, even though I didn't believe in God. I went to church. And there was this girl at church that asked me, who was like my age and had my Instagram. She was like, was that post about that girl dying real? And I was like, yes. Like, I was like, oh my God, that's so, I didn't say this, but I was like thinking how insensitive that is to say. And she was like, oh, okay, I was just checking because some people joke about that stuff, like they make stuff up. Or do it as like a joke, And I was like, no, like this actually happened. She's like, oh, okay. And I was sitting at this table with other people. I had my head down, like my phone like in my lap. So I was looking at my phone. I was looking at pictures of her, and I just started crying. I didn't really know why. I just started crying, and I left. I went to the bathroom. And I just cried for so long. And I couldn't stop crying. And eventually, there was a funeral that was going to be held for her. It was the first funeral that I went to that I can remember. I went to some when I was younger, but this was obviously the most memorable for me, for sure. And like some of our friends were there, and I stood with them, and the only one of us there that were crying was Rain, who at the end of Kira's life, I don't know if hated her is the right word, but did not like her. And it was, I don't know, it's just so incredibly sad. I didn't know, how to process this at my age. She was younger than us. I think I was 14, maybe, no, I think 13, maybe 14, 13 or 14 when this happened. And after the funeral, there was like a celebration, like just celebrating her life. And I was a teenager too. Still am, but at this time I was a teenager too. So I was upset at everyone. I was so upset at how happy everyone was, even though, it's supposed to be a celebration. I just felt like it was so insensitive for the situation. Like a young girl, just like, what happened. And people were just laughing and smiling. And I mean, even now, I don't know how I would react to something like that. Honestly, I feel like my story is getting so jumbled here, but I feel like I blocked out a lot of my memory from this time. And then Kira's mom actually reached out it was me, Rain, and another girl that was close to Kira. And she invited us to go over to her house and take some of Kira's things. This might have been before the funeral. I'm actually honestly not entirely sure. But we saw, her studio apartment. It was awesome. Like Kira's mom, she did like glass panes, like she welded glass and did a bunch of like glass art. And obviously for a big studio apartment that's like in the sky, it was just like so cool. Like she had like, there was like these little stairs that had like the railings were filled in with like glass. It was very, very, very cool. Oh, and I made a drawing. I did a drawing of Kira and her mom. And I think that's why Kira's mom wanted me to like meet her, because she wanted to do an art trade, because she was like, oh, would you be willing to sell the drawing that you made? And I didn't even know she would see it, but she was like, would you be willing to sell this drawing? And it didn't even occur to me to like take her money. So I was like, oh no, you can just have it. Like, it's for you. And she's like, no, like, let's do an art trade. And like, I'll make you like a glass pane. And I still have the glass pane that she made. She made it. I also took one of her, it was like a Letterman, is that what it's called? Letterman like jacket. I also like that one a lot. And luckily I don't grow very much, so all of it still fits. Lucky me. Oh yeah, to backtrack, I think it was on the way to the funeral, which makes this part all the more messed up. But I think on the way to the funeral, I was in the car with my mom. I don't remember what the conversation was about. I just remember my mom calling Kira selfish for ending her life. And I was like so upset that she would say something like that. Even if it's maybe true in some sense, who would say that to their kid after one of their friends like passed away? And she was like, oh, it's selfish to abandon her family, et cetera, et cetera. But like, she didn't know what she was going through. Even I don't know the extent at all of what she was going through. I'd seen things, but I was never close enough to her where I was the person that, she would come to for things. I was just a person, in her life. I feel like I was a background character compared to other people. Even though we got pretty close at some points, I know that there was so much about her that she didn't tell me, and maybe that she didn't tell anybody. Her mother, Kira's mom, would message me and Rain mostly messaged us a lot about her grief because she was, a grieving mom who just lost her daughter. And of course, I have the deepest of sympathy for her. But she would vent to us. She would vent to us a lot. Sorry, I just heard like an ambulance or something outside. Probably too much. Probably more than she should have. But, we just let her, because what are you supposed to say? I didn't talk to Kira's mom for a long time because she kind of fell out of contact with all of us. And Rain ended up telling me about how Kira's mom wanted to sue Rain's family or sue Rain herself because she believed that it was her fault that Kira died. So I guess she just went on an angry rampage because she would like insult these kids about how horrible they were, and she was trying to like get them in court. And I really don't know how any of that went down. All I know is that it happened. Nothing really happened to any of them. They didn't go to court or anything like that. And recently, Kira's mom ended up reaching out to me again because apparently she got my number through Rain. And Rain texted me, she's like, hey, this is really weird, but Kira's mom is asking for your number. Is it okay? Like, can I give it? Do you want me to give it to her? And she was saying how, like, at this point, Rain did not like Kira's mom because, she blamed her for everything and tried to, ridicule her and take her to court. When I don't know if that sounds fair, but it doesn't sound fair to me because obviously that happened years ago. And we were like young, and Rain already had felt so much like guilt up to that point because of the argument that they had prior to what happened. So she didn't want to stay in contact with Kira's mom, but I was okay with it. Or at least talking to her once again. So yeah, she got my number and she reached out to me. She said that she was coming, because she moved away and she was coming back to visit and she wanted to see me. So I met up with her. We got coffee. The coffee shop ended up closing very early, like way earlier than I expected. So we ended up sitting on the side of the road. It was quite like cinematic because it was sort of like the golden hour at the time. The sun was setting and like there was a bunch of like birds migrating, and we just sat on like a curb just talking and catching up. And honestly, it felt so surreal. Her brother goes, I don't I don't go I don't technically go to my high school anymore, but he goes to the same high school that I do. And he's graduating. He is completely different from how he used to be. Honestly, like the complete opposite. Like his sister ending her life, I guess just completely changed him and he became much more accepting. I don't know if he's like queer or like on the spectrum of it, but like there was like a spirit week where the prompt was like for one day it was like, oh, like dress your ideal type, and he wore like a skirt and stuff, which obviously is a joke, but he hangs out with like, this type of people that I would hang out with in middle school who were like, all like LGBTQ stuff like that. So I'm assuming that he's very different now. Which, sadly it is a good thing despite, what it cost. And I believe he's going to like Paris or Italy or something for school. I think it's France, maybe France, for college, which is, I mean, good for him. I'm glad he's doing well. This is also a little backtracking, but I remember, well, not remember, I was told recently that Kira's mom was never invited to the funeral, and she didn't even know about it. Which I learned this from another girl that met up with Kira's mom when she came here. She told me that, yeah, Kira's mom never knew that there was, like, about that funeral. She was never invited. And that was insane to me. I was shocked. Like, I mean, imagine you're not even invited to your own daughter's funeral. Like, I don't know. It's just messed up. Honestly, I don't really know what else to say. Out of all the things that have happened to me, I don't know. It's hard to say how much this one really affected me. I don't think about it as much anymore. It's still, very sad, and I feel like a collective grief sort of thing of like a lot of our school. But I don't know. That's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to tell that story to something. So thank you for listening.